tell you is that Hitler rose to power on reparations. Why don't they teach us that stuff? So that's why I learned at military school. If you study Marx, Lenin, Hitler, and Mao, you'll see it all over the school system. That's what today's postmodernist education, and postmodernist education actually started in 1930. When out of the Frankfurt School in Germany, they moved over to Columbia University. And Columbia University is the headquarters for Marxism. But they don't tell you that. And so the Teachers College at Columbia University is where the Frankfurt School set up in 1930, which is Marxism. In 1930, the Frankfurt School transported its flag over to Columbia University. There's a book called Tailspin by Stephen Brill. He talks about how our Ivy League schools rip everybody off. He's a Yale graduate. He says higher education from Ivy League schools, the worst people possible. Look at Obamacare. It was Stalin who said medicine is the archstone of socialism, socialized medicine. And education fits into that same category. School teachers are not very smart people. They wouldn't be school teachers. They're good people, but they have to go by the teacher's manual. They're employees. They all belong to a Marxist organization called the NEA, National Education Association. And you know what Marx said, right? Workers of the world unite. Labor unions. The most powerful labor union in America today is the NEA. Forbes called them the National Extortion Association. That's why during this COVID thing, you couldn't send your kid to school. The unions control everything. I'm not against unions, I'm against ignorance. Well, when I say what I say, you disagree with it, you find out who you are. You see, if you really think that Marxism is good and you can kill as many people as you like, then that's what Marx taught. Just look at the numbers of murders. Chinese have killed more people than any of the people in history. Look at their thing on the Uyghurs. They lock them up, they kill them, they use them in experiments, they sell them. You know, I've flown all over the world. I've seen Chinese concentration camps. So you can sit there in your little ivory tower Neiman Marcus store and say, oh, this is America. No, it's not. Just look at the contract of a student loan debt is the worst possible debt. As a professional capitalist, I wouldn't touch a student loan debt. And you know who got the money? Communist school teachers at Harvard, Stanford, Columbia. The reason I don't care for Yellen or Powell, because they're both Marxist.
I think fake money or fiat currency is in serious trouble right now. And so when we're talking about gold, silver, and Bitcoin, I'm not buying gold, silver, Bitcoin. I just don't trust our government. You know, and they're going to have to start printing pretty quickly. And the more they print, the less value, purchasing power the dollar has, or the loonie, or the yen, or the peso. So that's kind of, it's not a bet for gold, silver, Bitcoin. It's a bet against our government.
In 1970, when I graduated from school, $1 million at 15% interest earned me $150,000 a year. Now, you could live on $150,000 a year back then. But in 2016, due to this thing called quantitative easing, I call it the Greenspan put. It's $1 million at negative 5 basis points. It's going to cost you $1 million to save $1 million. That is how deteriorated our financial systems have become. And this is one of the causes between the gap between the rich and the poor.
The baby boomers have only known an up market, and now the end is near. They're starting to retire out just as the market is topping. China's coming down. We have trouble in Europe. I'm just watching this whole thing going, what's going to happen to the boomers? Because they actually had it the easiest of any generation I've ever seen.
This is the thing that happened that really screwed my generation of boomers. The 401k was born in 1974. So today you have my generation, the boomers, they're hanging on by a thread due to historical events coming in. So now the stock market is at an all-time high. It's nuts. And the reason it's all-time high is because our CEOs are borrowing money from the Treasury to repurchase their own stocks. So we don't have a real economy. We don't have a real stock market. And the U.S., the Fed is greatly in debt. The U.S. is greatly in debt. So your generation is far more aware. But my generation, my concern is the market is going to come down. Stock market, bond market, real estate market. And my generation is not prepared for it.
We're going into one of the roughest periods of humanity right now. And the problem is, from my perspective, is the dollar. And so if you understand the dollar, US dollar versus the loonie, it was created in 1913, but so was a tax department created in 1913.
Right.
So what they're going to do, we have so much debt today, they're going to have to keep printing. But every time they do that, it creates more poverty. The system is failing.
Yeah.
So we're going to have more homelessness, more unemployment, and the government has to print more money. A capitalist is somebody who believes in teaching people to fish.
Right.
And a socialist wants to give people fish.
Yeah.
And then I just divide them that way. And so also what's happening with your generation and actually with Gen X, the income of men is dropping.
Marx had one thing, he said it was the abolition of private property. In other words, we could own nothing. So they wanted to take all of our private property away, and it would then go to the state. And that's why when you study communism and Marxism, it's a centralized economy. It's called, in military terms, it's called command and control. I went to military school. So it's a command and control economy where the government tells you everything. And so that's why the Federal Reserve Bank is part of a communist thing. It's a central bank. And the central bank is not American, it's not a bank, and there's no reserves in it. And it's the Fed today, in 2021, is the third central bank. And for history, since Jefferson and those guys, they kept saying we cannot have central banks. But because our academic system is basically Marxist, most school teachers are Marxists, they just don't know it. Lenin said, if you want to destroy the economy, you want to destroy capitalism, debauch the currency. So in 1971, just before I went to Vietnam, Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. But they don't teach you that.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system, and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination, as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where to start? My name is Gunnar and I'm from Germany, as you can hear, and things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. Fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof, to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really, really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.